my friends. This is Deepak, and we are continuing our conversations with influencers, luminaries, scientists. Sometimes we call them also sages, psychotics, and geniuses. Today, it's my very special privilege to invite back a friend, Rajnish Khanna, who will tell you all about his work in agricultural science and how the amazing stuff he's doing is actually going to be very important for the future of food, but also our environment and our climate. And he has also invited Brigid McNally. Nice to meet you, Brigid. And we're going to have a conversation about their extraordinary work. So before we do anything, Rajnish, little background and today's topic, and please introduce Brigid as well.
Sure. Thank you so much, Deepak. It's always a pleasure to be in your company, and I always learn a lot. As I've also discussed before in previous ones, I'm a plant scientist. I got my start in India, where I did my master's, and then moved to Purdue and got a PhD there in plant sciences. Then went to postdoc at UC Berkeley, and from there went to industry. And industry was quite eye-opening. It was a biotech industry, and I learned how the food system works, and saw that there were lots of issues that could be easily solved, some with technology and also with information and education of consumers. So I've been focusing a lot of my efforts in developing certain technologies which are nature-based, and also developing programs that can allow us to be more connected with where our food comes from, what's in our food, and how we can easily access healthy food so that we can do meditation and live healthy lives. And yes, so during this process, I also saw that there was a need for a digital map or a digital medium, which is what we will talk about. And I started this work a while back. And while I was trying to test this, I went to a farmer's market, and that's where I met Brigid. And Brigid can tell us about what Brigid was doing there.
Thanks, Rajnish. And just want to say thank you, Deepak, for having us on. This is really exciting. So yeah, I met Raj at a farmer's market. I used to be a vertical farmer, started my own small business in 2019. And I was growing microgreens, which are basically sprouts and baby plants. So I was selling them at the farmer's market to my local community. I was just going up to, chefs at different restaurants and trying to pitch my product to them to sell. And I had just kind of a very small base of customers that I was growing through that. So I met Rajnish, and we had a lot of the same interests when it came to connecting these small businesses, which I was a small grower at the time, and trying to help them share their products easier with their local community. So that's kind of how we joined forces.
But as it happens, Brigid also has masters in.
Right. Yeah, so that's the other side. I came from not a plant scientist background. I did my master's in communication and public relations. So at the same time that I was growing plants, I was in school as well. So that side of trying to learn marketing and PR, I wanted to also bring to the table with the app that we'll talk about today.
Okay, so go for it. Let us learn a little bit about the app. I have some other questions, a bigger kind of picture, but please go ahead.
So I thought I will show some slides just to put bigger, complex things into perspective. And so, like I mentioned, after I worked in industry and when trying to go back to academia, I decided that I was going to stay in between. So I kept one foot in industry and one foot in academia. And I've been trying to connect both sides because I think our food environment really needs that. And the main issues when I did my research almost 5, 6, 7 years ago, and nothing has changed since then, I found that one of the biggest issues that have caused all these problems have been centralization of our food production and a lot of monopolization, big industry that produces food and it's produced at certain locations, then it has to be transported everywhere. And of course, there's a carbon footprint of that transportation. And there are also, the food many times has to be harvested a little bit sooner and then stored. And the consequences of those activities are huge. That disconnects the consumers from the producers and reduces the reliability of where the food is coming from. So that disconnect, that longer chain, causes multiple issues. It has benefits. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. We can eat coconuts and bananas anywhere in the world. And those things are never going to go away, and those are wonderful. But I think we can make an impact on the environment and also on our health if we reduce our consumption of such foods and rely a little bit more on locally grown and connect more with local producers. And that will also reduce food waste. So I saw that there were these issues that were monopolization, that also led the distributors to more economic targets. So that causes food deserts. And then there is also poor soil health, because our focus has become on increasing yield, and because that disconnection then reduces the interest in quality and more on quantity of production. So literally, then it comes down to lack of consumer knowledge, because if the consumers were more aware of what they're buying and consuming, and they make the right decisions. But how do they make the right decisions? They have to have access to that information. So I decided that my main focus with this was going to empower the consumers, not only with information, with education to make the right decisions, but also provide access to more local food. So I thought I was going to solve all these problems with one app. So we called it Terra Local. And this one app does all of these things. It's actually the digital map of the entire food chain. And in one app, one person can be a buyer or a seller. For example, a farmer can buy soil amendments, microbials, anything that the farmer needs from this app, and apply it to their fields, grow their food, and tell the story of how they did it. They can also connect with scientists, do research, scientific research, and show that their food has higher nutrition, soil is better health, and put all that information accessible to restaurants, to other places where food is bought, restaurants and also other industries, as well as consumers. So telling their story incentivizes them to act on doing the positive change right from the start, because that becomes part of their marketing. Once that happens, the local restaurants and other industry or other businesses that buy grocery stores, they can follow on and show that they're buying locally, how the food is being produced, and that information then goes to everyday consumers. And as that information goes to consumers, they get more access to science and technology, because the local producers, they're not only getting marketing visibility, but also getting access to the scientific community, local universities, researchers, soil researchers, microbiome profiling people, and we have already started some of that. So the consumers start to see what this kind of change can actually do for nutrition and their own health. And it links the producers directly through the app to consumers, and then eventually to wider community. So the idea was to just simply create this portal that can then provide information and access all the way from the start of the food chain to the consumer.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize also the marketability side of it, because coming from having a small business in the past, you're doing all of the work behind the scenes of running the business, of growing the food and making sure that the quality is there. But to actually sell, you have to also be really good at marketing your product and using technology to meet people and make long-lasting customers from that sense. So from a small business perspective, or maybe even a smaller farmer's perspective, this could be a game changer, because I can be connected directly to restaurants. They can see my profile and I can show them my profile and the scientific evidence showing that my produce is excellent in that sense. And it will be a lot more streamlined rather than going door to door knocking to meet each individual chef or something on a my time basis. I can reach out to them on a greater scale, see more of them. They can see more producers and have a wider variety in the local scheme as well. So that marketability is really an attractive force when it comes to being a small business and not having the access or even the monetary ability to create ads if you wanted to do something online in that sense. So yeah.
Go ahead. Now, where are you located? Where are you living, Brigid?
So when Raj and I met, I was living in Northern California, in Lodi, California. That's where my farm was. Right now, I'm actually in Texas. So I moved to Texas since then. So my farm is no longer growing at this point because I started working with Raj more on the back end of the app. But the example of it being a small business is still very valid. I can share a lot of opinions from what would be useful from the grower's perspective.
Where are we with this app right now? Is it commercial at the moment or not?
It is. So it is. We've filed some initial invention disclosures, and it is available on the App Store and the Google Android. So what the challenge in an app is multifold. As you know, Deepak, you have apps as well, and the challenge is to get it out there and inform people about what its utility is and get people to use it. And I'm, as a scientist, my background is very different. So what I'm hoping is that maybe we can collaborate and bring it out to people together. It's mostly developed and it needs beta testing. It needs to be tested and then brought to market. But it is available to download.
But Rajnish, if I have this app right now, I'm in New York City. Can this app help me get in touch with the restaurants that use local farmers? And can local farmers also advise which restaurants they supply their food, their product?
So to get into New York City, the first area where we've been testing has been the Bay Area. But to get into New York City, it'll be the same process. We will need to first start with the producers, get them on board, which doesn't take too long. In a week or two, we can have some producers and then connect with the restaurants. The other thing about the app is that not only the restaurants will be able to buy, or you can find which restaurants are getting from local farmers, but you can also buy directly from the restaurants. So it's the entire food chain. You will be able to go buy directly from restaurants, and in the future we are going to have delivery as well. So this will be one platform where it shows all the way from how the food was grown to buying it either directly from a farmer or processed or cooked food from restaurants or even grocery stores which are selling local produce. So it's really truly a local platform to be able to buy from any of them.
I get the commercial aspects of this, and I think it's a very good innovation for people to get good produce and good information and good science. All that's very good, but this is still in a stage where we have yet to make it universally available everywhere.
Yes,
and
yes.
It needs that growth in different cities as well, right?
It does. And that's where my challenge is, because my resources are limited and my networks are limited. And this is why I'm excited to be here. And, and I'm very collaborative and would like to make this work, because we need this to save our planet. And just to go mention the science part, we did this little work for Brigid's sprouts, and this will be shown on the app. So she had this. Brigid, want to tell us how the sprouts were grown quickly?
Yeah. So we did a test using my pea shoots, which are basically sprouts of a pea vine, with 3 different weeks of fresh harvest. So compared those to store-bought ones that were in my area, but were shipped from Southern California. So the ones that I was buying at the store were, after transporting them for a week and stored in fridges and such. And as you can see from the differences, both in the images, there's 3 different weeks there, and the ones grown freshly by my farm and gotten to the consumer sooner still managed to stay fresher over the 3-week period compared to the store-bought one, which was transported for who knows how long until we got it and had to store it ourselves.
So this is more of an example, just to show as an example. So we quickly did a chlorophyll amount per gram analysis, and we saw that the ones that were store-bought after 14 weeks, they were just trying to reduce some chlorophyll, whereas the ones that were bought directly from farmers market, from PVX farms, which was Brigid's farm, they continued to produce chlorophyll in the first week and retained more chlorophyll. So because they were fresher, they were still alive. So that shows the difference between transportation and having fresh fruits and vegetables. And then this kind of information, when the consumer can have access to this kind of information, that can really help the local producers get a better standing about what they're trying to do.
So yeah, again, that helps for the consumer or for the producer side to be able to promote their business as well. But I did want to go back to what you were saying earlier, Deepak. I think one of the biggest challenges is the launching and spreading it. I think one of the ideas that we've think that is going to be the most successful is to focus on a specific area and launch in an area. So that's why we're focusing on the Bay Area first, and then perhaps spread throughout California, and just advertise in a certain area to make that more possible, because it won't be successful if only one producer in one state is using it, right? So we really have to focus in on a certain location and spread outwards from there. And I think that will make it the most successful way to.
But we are flexible. But we are flexible where we do that first.
Yeah.
Bay Area is just we picked because I'm in the Bay Area. But
talk to me a little bit about why this is important in terms of disease prevention, also for what we call climate change. Say a few things, because I have more questions after that.
Sure. So actually, this is a good slide to do that. So we discussed these issues, and so now this is showing how we can solve them. And it really does get into global problems, which is disease and climate change. So climate change is an impact, it's going to impact food production, but also its cause is also, whether we believe it or not, I think we contribute a lot towards it through industrial progress, and also transporting and growing food in a centralized format and then sending it everywhere. So going more local is definitely much, much better for climate. That's one thing. Secondly, how we treat our soils is very important. Pesticides and chemical synthetic fertilizers, all of those are issues that we really need to tackle very quickly. And what this app does is provides access to nature-based amendments. So microbial amendments, and they're much cheaper and easier to apply. And also we have satellite-based monitoring programs. So all these things provide more technology to local producers, which they currently don't have. So a lot of these technologies are available to large-scale farmers, but the local producers struggle even to make their income, and they don't have enough means to get access to this more advanced, although better for environment technology. So the app provides that access, provides scientific support, provides marketability, and shows how we can also add carbon measuring methods, so it can show the impact it can have on doing those things in a better way on the climate. And then that information, I hope, will drive the consumer to go to those local players who are doing it in the right way.
And also, just to quickly add, from the everyday consumer's perspective, to make it easy and on one platform where you can see everything. is, I think, the only way to really make localization in some ways possible, because it's hard to shop locally and everything when you just, it's scattered. But when you're able to really access and see everything in one area, that will make a big difference for the consumer.
Okay, as Rajnish knows, I'm very interested in both aspects of food production. One is health, the other is climate change. And we now know that 30% of the microbiome has disappeared from urban areas, that industrial food production with processed, refined, manufactured food with lots of artificial ingredients and lots of sugar is the cause of dysbiosis, which is connected to every chronic disease, including diabetes, hypertension, cancer, autoimmune illnesses, inflammation, even mental well-being. 80% of the serotonin in our body comes from the gut. So rejuvenating the microbiome is a very important aspect for helping cure or reverse dysbiosis, which is connected to both mental well-being and mental illness, and also physical disorders. At the same time, with coming to climate change, I think what is not being emphasized is that the soil really is the source of the biosphere that we call our biology, and the biosphere that we call the environment. When we go to these big philosophical questions, scientific questions, did you need a certain biosphere for life to emerge? Or did life come first and a biosphere came later? It's all the same thing. The life and the biosphere are entangled activities of whatever the deeper reality is. So as I was doing my own little research on climate change, I read some amazing initiatives. The first was restoration of coastal rainforests and marine life, the ecosystem of coastal areas, but also rainforests, since 1 teaspoon of soil under the ground in these areas apparently has more genetic biodiversity than the entire surface of the planet. The second thing I came across was the whole emphasis on what is being called agroforestry now, that people are combining agriculture and forestry at the same time. The third thing was decentralized distribution systems for both food and energy and transportation. And the final thing that I came across was helping restore indigenous people's rights to their land, because they have this close relationship. So it all ties down. It all kind of ties together. We can, Rajnish, you and I can talk later about a potential collaboration, but what you're doing is very important. And I congratulate you on this amazing, creative, innovative technology. People sometimes, say technology is ruining the planet, and in many ways it is. But technology can also be used to create a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world. And I think all those things, peace, sustainability, health, joy, and they're all kind of entangled. One doesn't cause the other. They're all correlated with each other. So this is a great innovation. Congratulations to both of you. And I will reflect on what you're saying, talk to a few people, and then get back to you. Do you have any concluding remarks, either of you, as to what you see as the future if an innovation like this can actually reach critical mass?
Yes. So I think one of the biggest challenges are really for people to get access and understand, differentiate between information that is true and factual versus non-factual. We have lots of information coming to us. So if there is a platform that can be believed and connects many people together, hopefully it can influence better decision making and can have a bigger footprint in the overall process. And this is why we also started this podcast called Terra Science. And we've had Stuart and Paul and Dennis and also Greg Asner. And we've had several of these podcasts. And the idea for this podcast is really to give a platform also to producers who are making the right steps or taking the right steps towards climate change awareness and growing their produce or growing food in a better way. And anyone who's working on it to come and tell their story. But again, we are a small group, and we are trying to bring this information out, and that is really what we are thinking that can maybe have an impact. And what better way to bring this information and technology out other than working with you, Deepak? I'm just totally thrilled and excited to be able to do that.
I have a lot going on, but I will definitely explore possibilities and get back to you. And any further remarks, Brigid, that you want to make?
Yeah, I think I just really want to say thank you for letting us talk about it today. I think the Terra Local has so much potential, and I think just bringing it back to the supporting of local businesses and giving them more opportunities, and at the same time making it easier for the consumers to be able to see what's out there, because it's really cool to see what farms are near you and how they're able to grow their produce. And it's not really possible to see that without being very, very dedicated to do your own research. So having somewhere that you can see that and learn and be interested just based on having it in your pocket, I think that's going to be the way to share all the different options that you have around you in your specific area. So that I think there's so much potential for.
Wonderful. So we will soon be publishing this on many platforms, reaching a few million people. We will provide the appropriate links in your bios, and then the conversation will continue and see how it evolves.
And is it okay if I quickly share our screen of the Terra Science podcast as well?
Yes. Yeah.
That would be great. So yeah, just real quickly, that is Rajni's podcast, the Terra Science podcast, where reality matters as well. So thank you. And Deepak, you are absolutely welcome to join us sometime on Terra Science in the future. We would love that.
Yes, I will. Wonderful. Thank you both. And we'll continue this conversation now.